Just over 2 years ago, me and my friend Aliash set out to build the best 10 gigabit prosumer router on the market for a reasonably affordable price. We raised nearly $1 million to do so and even succeeded in shipping the first batch of 1,000 units. And now? Well, now I'm burned out. But the reasons for my burnout likely aren't what you probably think they are. Let me first address the one question I've been getting over the past couple of months, and that question is, when are you going to make an update? Well, there have been updates, just not on my YouTube channel, because priorities, of course, shifted towards everyone that pre-ordered a device, and the vast majority of these folks joined our Discord server months ago. And as you can probably imagine, writing a couple of paragraphs on a Discord channel takes almost no time compared to a video that requires me to write a script, review it a couple of times, set up the recording, and then finally edit the whole thing, which, just so you have an idea, roughly takes an hour for each minute of the video. So if you check how long this video is in minutes, well, it took the same amount of hours to actually make it. And since we're talking about how long something takes to make, I should probably also mention the 80-20 rule, which is also known as the Pareto principle. It will definitely apply throughout this video, so I think it makes sense for me to explain it a bit further, just in case you're not familiar with it. In a nutshell, the 80-20 rule says that you'll spend 20% of the time achieving 80% of the goal or results, but the inverse also holds true, which means that you'll spend 80% of the time achieving the last 20% of the same goal. I hope it makes sense. If not, don't worry, because I'm going to give you an example straight away. If you've been following my channel for any length of time, then you already know we manufactured 1,000 units of what we call gateway development kits. These are a complete overkill for what the majority of users need from a router, but we took this approach on purpose. The reason being, let's just add everything we can come up with in the context of what a router might need, of course, and then based on the user observations and feedback, strip away everything that they don't need or want in order to optimize for costs for the actual mass-produced version of Gateway. Now, if we apply the 80-20 rule, that means that for roughly 800 customers, things went relatively smoothly, right? They would place their order sometime in 2025. Then in February of this year, they would receive the link for the full payment, which they would do in a matter of, day or two, and then we would ship them their unit. This is what developers call a happy path. Now, even this happy path didn't come without a number of challenges, but we'll cover those in the next section of the video, because I want to talk about the 20% first, so that we cover our 80-20 rule in full, right? Now, let me make one thing very clear. All of what I'm about to say is my fault. If there's anybody to blame, it's me. So if you see yourself in any of the examples I'm about to make, please know that it's not meant to throw shade, but to share knowledge so that someone who might follow in my footsteps with their own project and watches this channel will avoid making the same mistakes that I've made, okay? By far the most frustrating mistake I honestly didn't anticipate, and what's worse, could be completely avoided months in advance, were taxes. You see, when you sell physical products like ours to different countries, then you of course need to follow those countries' tax laws, which can vary wildly from one country to another, and in some cases require you to register for a VAT in that particular country. VAT is an acronym for value-added tax, in case you didn't know. And this process, so the process of the registration of a new VAT, can take months. But there's a gotcha in this process. Many countries have various thresholds that you can ship stuff to, and if you're below this threshold, you're basically tax exempt. Which is great, but unfortunately this information is sometimes buried on their website so deep that it's hard to find. So what I did was I leaned towards the side of caution. I mean, taxes are no joke, obviously. And this resulted in some customers having to wait way more than they needed to, which could all be completely avoided if I would have done more research months earlier. The best, or should I say the most painful example, are our UK customers. I think they waited 3 extra months completely unnecessarily because Matias, one of our team members, just randomly chatted with a person on our Discord, did some research on his own, and found out that the UK has, if if I remember correctly, 90,000 pound threshold. And we didn't sell 90,000 pounds worth of gear to the UK. So, of course, upon realization that we can ship the units even without a UK VAT, we of course immediately shipped all of them, which are now in the hands, or should I say racks and shelves of our UK customers. But I'd be lying if mistakes like these aren't insanely mentally taxing, for several reasons. The first one obviously being the realization you messed up. I mean, everybody messes up every now and then, but I have this tendency to over-punish myself mentally with what is called an imposter syndrome. I won't go too much into details here because this video is not about psychoanalysis, but in a nutshell, imposter syndrome makes you feel like you don't belong where you are, that you didn't earn it, and that people will see right through you. It sucks, to be honest, but for some reason my normal response to this is to work harder, which can be both a very good thing, but also a very bad thing at the same time. You see, when you work hard, you have to focus, and when you're focused on one thing only, which in my case, since I'm a developer, is development. But you know which aspect of my job suffers then? The most important one, communication. So during all these issues, instead of me talking to our customers, I did the opposite. I started ignoring them. Actually, no, that's not right, because I did read all the messages and sometimes let them simmer in the back of my brain for way longer than I should have. So I guess it's not ignoring, it's postponing a response, because in this state, conversation can become this huge mental burden, and combined with the imposter syndrome, just becomes this vicious spiral of self-doubt. And this self-doubt gets amplified even further when people start complaining. And don't get me wrong, if you purchase a product and you have negative thoughts about either the product, the company that made it, or the experience you've had along the way, then you should absolutely share them, right? No doubt about it. But when you're as emotionally invested into a project like I am in our router, then this criticism sometimes gets taken way too personally, and to be honest, I'm still looking for a solution to this. I mean, imagine someone calling your baby ugly, and you'll get the idea. Anyway, my feelings aside, we still haven't addressed the last 20% from the logistics perspective, so we'll do a speed run over a couple of cases that will hopefully paint a full picture. But before we lay them out, let me explain the reason for how and why we decided to do things very manually for the first batch of our routers. You see, we were offered a full service by our EMS company, meaning they'd handle everything, including orders and shipping, but we decided not to take their offer and instead process all of the 1,000 units ourselves. First, there was a cost associated with this service, obviously, and having never done anything like this before, I wanted to learn both how the process of assembling a router looks like, which is the topic of my previous video, which I'll leave the link to down below the like button, and second, how long it takes, which of course becomes a relatively good indicator whether the price for such a service is reasonable and justified. But doing everything by ourselves had one consequence. Everything had to come through me. Every email, every Discord conversation, every payment, every router being shipped, every refund, every complaint, every update that needed to be written, everything. And here's where the 20% of our 20/80 rule comes in. For example, a number of people lost their pre-order invoices, which were needed in order to make the full payment. Now, to be clear, this is completely understandable. I mean, some had to wait almost a year between pre-ordering and the final payment, right? But that meant I had to log into Stripe, our payment provider, look for the person, which in some cases used a different email than the one that they reached out. So there was a bit of back and forth there, and then some people stopped responding in the middle of the conversation, so I had to follow up, or sometimes forgot to due to other workloads. Then some people asked, if I could ship to another destination than they ordered their routers to, which meant I had to check the status of the order, cancel the DHL waybill, and generate a new one. Then we had some people that received their units and changed their minds, so we had to handle that as well. Now, if you work in retail, then none of what I just said sounds too surprising or stressful, and you're absolutely right, it's not. But what it is, it's time consuming. And if you spend on average, say, an hour per person, then with 200 people, it quickly becomes a full-time job just to sort everybody out, right? Now, again, if you see yourself in any of the examples above, no shade. If anything, I'm grateful for the experience so that I know how to solve, or even better, completely avoid the majority of these in the future, because I love solving networking problems way more than logistic ones, right? Isn't it ironic, in a way, that the first 1,000 supporters will have gotten the worst experience because our whole team is learning as we go and every subsequent run will be much smoother? So, if you've been impacted by any of these mistakes, carelessness, miscommunication, or sloppiness, I apologize. I hope that the end products speak for themselves and the love we've poured into them. And in the not so distant future, I hope these issues will just be a faint memory. Honestly, I can't even begin to express my gratitude to everyone who decided to support this project, even with all the fuck-ups, poor decisions, and lack of communication. Everyone still shows up on our Discord with nothing but kindness and words of encouragement and support. And what's even more amazing, a couple of, I should probably call them rock stars or superstars, even started to contribute code to our firmware, improvements to the documentation, or just simply help out other less tech-savvy owners of our development kits. Seeing this just made me speechless, to be honest. Thank you. Anyway, before we wrap this section up, I need to address two questions you might have, especially if you pre-ordered a unit but didn't receive one because you were too late to the party. For reasons that will become apparent in the next section, we're discussing internally how the next batch will actually even look like, whether it will be development kits or regular gateways, but unfortunately I don't have an ETA yet. Regardless, we still have some units that are waiting for those who did pre-order them in time, and if they don't show up, another batch of invites is going out in a couple of days or so. And for those of you who did make the final payment but haven't received your unit yet, we have the next batch planned for pickup either tomorrow or the day after. Now, regardless of which route we take in regard to our gateways, so whether it will be development kits or the regular version, you're of course free to ask for a refund at any point. For whatever reason, this is your money after all. And since we're talking about pre-orders, one fun fact I should also point out is our stale and at this point insanely obsolete website, simply because I didn't have the time to work on it yet. And despite that, people still put in pre-orders, and as of today we've likely gathered 1,500 new ones, and we still see them being made almost daily, which is both fantastic and terrifying for reasons which will become pretty clear in a moment. Now, if you think all of what I just said led to the burnout, well, you'd be wrong. I mean, it definitely didn't help, but there's one other thing that's keeping me up at night, RAM availability. Not the price, though it's definitely a factor, but availability. You see, development kits, like I explained earlier and in my past videos, shipped with 8 GB of RAM plus ECC, which totals 5 chips, each 2 GB. For these 5 chips combined, we paid around $35 last September, which I already thought was fucking expensive given you could buy 8 GB SODIMMs on Amazon for like $14, right? Well, little did I know that just over a half a year later, we'd receive a quote for identical 5 chips, and you might want to sit down for this, for $300 fucking dollars. This in itself is already insane, but we decided to entertain the offer and ask Micron for delivery dates. You know what they said? Half in 2027, the other half in 2031. What the fuck am I supposed to do until 2031? And it's not just the RAM, but storage as well. The eMMC, you know, the main storage chip on our device, isn't immune to this brave new world either. If we paid roughly $10 for 32 GB chips, we'd now have to pay $20 for 10 GB chips. Twice the price for a third of capacity. Now, I won't go too much into prices because I'll do a dedicated video on this topic in August. But yeah, if we're to survive, we're basically forced to lower the specs while keeping the current price, if not even increasing it. Not because I want to. In fact, I would much prefer our devices to be cheaper and more accessible to a wider audience, but unfortunately this is completely out of my control, and it's this helplessness that's so frustrating. I mean, we've worked our asses off for the past 2 years only to not be able to celebrate this huge milestone, but to look at the market conditions and fucking cry or something. And apologies for the profanity. Okay, this video has been quite grim up to this point, but there are some things happening in the background that do return a smile on my face and pour some optimism into my glass. And funnily enough, these things would happen regardless of the Rampocalypse, and they're of course technical in nature, which you probably already know I enjoy doing. First, we've gotten the designs for the final version of Gateway from the design studio we work with, and I think they look absolutely fantastic. This will get its own video in the future, but you know, turning renders into an actual product requires some mechanical engineering and manufacturing, and all of this is either being discussed or in some cases prototypes are being manufactured as we speak. But the best news here, it seems will succeed in substantially lowering the cost of production of the enclosures while still maintaining the premium look and feel of the aluminum that many of you have praised the development kits for. Ayash is also working on optimizing the BOM costs for the PCB, and here we also found a number of candidates to lower the capacity of or strip away completely while not sacrificing the networking performance a single bit. Pun very much intended. Again, this is a topic for a full video in and of itself, so let's instead move on to something much bigger, and that's a commitment from a Slovenian venture capital fund for, let's say, a very high six-figure number to invest into our business in the upcoming round. But here's a plot twist that I'm not revealing just yet. They're investing in something we've been working on in the background that is almost ready to be released publicly, and we want to make sure it's fully polished before we do, because I think it'll change the way that people use their routers going forward. Click that subscribe button to be among the first to learn what it is. I know I haven't made that many videos this year for reasons that should be obvious by now, but now there's again going to be a bit of a silence for another reason: my family. They've been nothing but supportive to me and this company, and I think they deserve some more of a husband and dad that they've been getting this past couple of months. So I'm spending a couple of weeks in July in the beautiful Croatian coastline with them. So I'll see you all in August. Tomasz from Slovenia, signing out.